At first glance, the person in this image might look like a simple, smiling South African soldier. Looking at his laughing face, you would never be able to guess the extent of his brutality. If you have always looked at leaders like Hitler and Stalin as the definition of cruelty, then it is clear you do not yet know the story of Idi Amin. The list of his cruel deeds is long, but his most disgusting act was cannibalism. Yes, he sometimes ate the flesh of the people he killed, or he would spend hours talking to their corpses and even sleeping beside them. In the 1970s, the name Idi Amin was synonymous with death in Uganda. He constructed buildings in Uganda ostensibly to store weapons, but weapons were never kept there. Instead, these buildings held Amin's prisoners, whom he would beat mercilessly, bleed, and eventually dismember or execute using electricity. His victim could be anyone, a political rival, his own man, or a soldier. You can judge his madness by the fact that 1 year after divorcing his fourth wife, he summoned her to this very prison while she was pregnant, had her dismembered, and killed her. During his 8-year dictatorship, he brutally murdered more than 500,000 people. Idi Amin was born in 1925 in a place called Kiboko. His father, Andreas Nyabayer, had converted from Roman Catholicism to Islam and changed his name to Amin Dada. When his first son was born, Nyabayer gave him the same name. Soon, Idi Amin's parents separated, and his mother took him to the city of Bambo. Living in the city was difficult due to extreme poverty. Amin's mother could not afford his education, so he only studied until about the 4th grade before he started working odd jobs to earn money. Eventually, he joined the King's African Rifles, which was a wing of the British colonial army at the time. Amin came from a tribe where people lived very close to nature and had unique customs. They were known to drink the blood of animals they killed and eat raw meat. In their environment, rituals involving sacrifice and violence were not uncommon. Growing up in this setting made Amin naturally fierce, and as he gained power, his violent nature only intensified. He joined the army in 1946, where he was initially given the job of a cook in the King's African Rifles. He showed great loyalty to the British. Seeing his ruthless behavior, the British began giving him military training. They believed a local man who was so cruel toward his own people would make an excellent soldier for their army. Amin was sent to Kenya to serve, where he also worked in jails until 1949. Standing at about 6 feet 4 inches and being physically imposing, he appeared much stronger than the average person. The British Army trained him in rugby and weightlifting. He remained a heavyweight boxing champion from 1951 to 1960 during his service. When the British saw him taking heartless actions against his own countrymen, they sent him to North Kenya to fight against Somali rebels. In 1952, he participated in the fight against the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya, where he killed people with extreme brutality. He created a bloodbath to suppress the rebellion, burying people alive or cutting them down like vegetables. Upon his return, the British promoted him to corporal and then sergeant. By 1959, he was made a warrant officer of the 2nd class, the highest army post for a black African at that time. He returned to Uganda and was commissioned as an officer in 1961, a designation previously given to only 2 other Africans. By then, Amin had established a reign of terror throughout Uganda. It is said that evil always travels in pairs. In Uganda, Amin met Milton Obote, another high-ranking officer in the British colonial army. Both had earned reputations for killing their own people to prove loyalty to the British. Together, they began smuggling gold and ivory out of Africa. Leveraging their high ranks, they also smuggled British ammunition and guns, making a vast amount of money. By the late 1960s, British officials grew suspicious and demanded an investigation. However, by then, it was too late. Uganda was protesting for freedom. Obote took advantage of the situation, declaring himself executive president, while Idi Amin temporarily fled to the UK. Uganda gained independence in 1962. Milton Obote became Prime Minister, and Idi Amin was appointed Deputy Commander. By 1964, seeing Amin's influence, he was made Commander of the army. While they were once close friends, Amin grew resentful of working under Obote. Both were hungry for power and money. Amin began building his own strength to seize the throne. He took control of the army by recruiting minority ethnic groups like the Kakwa and South Sudanese. He trained them personally and won their loyalty. By 1968, he had filled the forces with people from his local Nile region who viewed him as a god. In 1969, Amin attempted to assassinate Obote, but failed. Obote became wary and demoted Amin to just army chief. This made Amin even more dangerous. He spent his time bonding with his soldiers and visiting the common people, promising to solve their problems and labeling Obote as corrupt. On January 25, 1971, while Obote was attending a Commonwealth meeting in Singapore, Amin used his loyal troops to seize the airport and block all major roads. Since Obote's image was already tarnished by corruption, the people initially accepted Amin as their leader. He declared himself president and commander-in-chief. His first act was to declare Obote a traitor and announce that anyone supporting him would be killed. He changed the name of the government house to the Command Post and turned the intelligence agency into the State Research Bureau, which became a headquarters for torture. He raised an army of professional killers whose only job was to kill anyone on the basis of suspicion. In 1972, Obote's supporters tried to launch an attack from Tanzania, but it failed. A frustrated Amin responded by massacring people from the Akoli and Lango communities. Over 5,000 soldiers and 10,000 civilians were killed. He promoted Islam and persecuted all other religions. Bodies were thrown into the Nile River in such high numbers that the Victoria Dam once became clogged with corpses. Amin idolized Adolf Hitler and believed that what Hitler did to the Jews was right. In 1972, he claimed that God told him in a dream to expel all Asians and Europeans from the country, accusing them of looting the economy. Over 50,000 Asians with British passports and 60,000 non-citizens were forced to leave. Those who stayed were treated horribly, thrown into electrified cells or fed alive to crocodiles. Because he handed the factories and businesses of the expelled people over to his untrained army, the economy collapsed. By the late 70s, the world began to see the truth. Former ministers escaped to London and wrote a book titled A State of Blood, exposing Amin's atrocities. In 1978, after a suspicious car accident involving his vice president, Adrisi, mutiny broke out in the army. To distract the public, Amin launched an attack on Tanzania. This was his final mistake. The Tanzanian army retaliated, defeated the Ugandan forces, and captured the capital, Kampala. Amin fled the country, hiding in Libya for a year before finding asylum in Saudi Arabia. The Saudi royal family protected him on the condition that he stay out of politics. He spent his final years there and died in 2003 due to multiple organ failure. Thus ended the life of a man-turned-monster who considered eating human flesh a normal occurrence.